Hi everybody, welcome to day 3 of 200 idioms in 20 days. Today I'm coming to you from my front garden because the topic today is idioms from the garden. We'll do 10 idioms today and 10 idioms tomorrow in part 2. I don't have my whiteboard with me, but I'll put all of the notes from this video down below in the description area. Okay, so not to worry, you'll get all of the information. So the first idiom is a bed of roses. When something is a bed of roses, it's a very comfortable and pleasant situation. It's a situation that makes you really, really happy. But you can also, on the contrary, say that something is not a bed of roses. Means it's a really unpleasant or unhappy or uncomfortable situation. So a bed of roses can either be used in a positive or a negative way when you say something is not a bed of roses. Number 2 is a late bloomer. A late bloomer is a person who accomplishes things later in life. Most people go to, let's say, university right out of high school when they are 18 or 19 years old, or maybe in their early 20s. But a late bloomer might not go to university until their late 20s or 30s or even 40s. Another example might be someone who gets married later in life, not in their 20s, maybe not even in their 30s. Maybe they get married in their 40s or 50s. So that is what we would call a late bloomer, a person who accomplishes things later in life than most people do. The third idiom is a shrinking violet. A shrinking violet is a person who is really timid and really shy. If there's a party, they might be the person who is sitting in the corner by themselves all night long, and people go and speak to them. They would never get up and speak to anyone else. So a shrinking violet is someone who perhaps doesn't have a lot of confidence, but they're generally a really shy and timid person who does not socialize very, very easily. Number 4 is a thorn in the flesh or the side. When you say that something is a thorn in your flesh or in your side, you can be speaking about something or someone. Well, if you're talking about something, it's a thing that causes you a lot of discomfort, a lot of irritation. Perhaps you have physical chronic pain. Maybe you have pain in your body somewhere, and you say, this pain is just a thorn in my side. I can't get rid of the pain no matter what treatment I've used, but it seems to be always with me. When you are describing a person as a thorn in your side, it's a person who always causes you trouble, always causes you problems. Perhaps a person at work, if you work, maybe a coworker is a constant thorn in your side. Someone who is always trying to badmouth you to the boss, maybe say bad things to you. Maybe they're always very critical of your work, and no matter what you do, this person is always not a very nice person to you. They're always unpleasant towards you. So you can describe something or someone as being a thorn in your flesh or a thorn in your side. Something or someone who always causes you trouble, annoyance, perhaps physical discomfort as well for something. So that is a thorn in your flesh or your side. Number 5 is to nip something in the bud. And a little bud, of course, is a little growth on a tree. But when you nip something in the bud, you are stopping something right at the beginning before it becomes a big, big problem. Let's say you have a child, maybe an older child, maybe, a 17-year-old child, 16, 17 years old, and they want to go to a party. and you give them a curfew. You tell them what time you want them to be home. And maybe it's an 11 o'clock or maybe 12 o'clock midnight curfew. But maybe they come in at 12:30 or 1 o'clock in the morning. So you're thinking, I don't want this to happen on a regular basis. I don't want this to become a bad habit. So I am going to nip it in the bud, stop this behavior right away before it becomes a big habit. So I'm going to tell them, next time you are not allowed to go to the party. Okay, so you're giving them kind of a punishment right at the beginning so the bad behavior doesn't continue. So when you're nipping something in the bud, you are stopping bad behavior usually right at the beginning of the bad behavior before it is able to blossom and to bloom and to become an ongoing bad habit. Number 6 is everything is rosy, right? So it means exactly what it sounds like. When you say that everything is rosy, you mean that everything is just fantastic. I have no complaints about anything. Everything is going really, really well. You can also use it in a negative. Not everything is so rosy. Maybe it looks great, but on the inside, in reality, maybe it is a bad situation or an unpleasant environment. So you can use it when something is rosy, great, fantastic. But if it's not rosy, it's not very good. It might look very good, but in reality, it might be something quite different. Number 7 is a rose among thorns. And this is to describe a person who is lovely and kind and so nice, but everybody else around them is really unpleasant and unkind and not very nice. Perhaps you know someone in a family who is really, really a nice person, but everybody else in the family is the complete antithesis, the complete opposite of this particular person. They're really unpleasant and hard to be around, right? So the lovely and kind and nice person, you would say that they are a real rose among thorns, a really a beautiful person among other people who are not so pleasant. Number 8 is a wallflower. A wallflower, again, is somebody who is not very socially inclined. Someone who really likes to sit, again, in a corner at a party. Somebody who is a real introvert. Somebody, again, who is very shy or timid. And somebody who, again, doesn't really like to socialize. They're usually on the outskirts of a social gathering. They're usually the person who is sitting alone in the corner. Number 9 is the bloom is off the rose. You say this to express that something is not as great as it used to be. Let me give you an example. You know, when people get married, after they get married, you know, they're very sentimental about their wedding day. Oh, it was such a great day, and I felt great in my dress, and everybody had a wonderful time. And they have a great time going through all of their wedding pictures. And maybe for the first year or two, certainly for the first year, it's the honeymoon year, right? And the second year, and you know, everything is wonderful. But maybe after, 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 years, problems start to develop. Sometimes, especially if you have children, sometimes it creates a lot of stress within a marriage. So you could say that the bloom is off the rose. We're not in that honeymoon period anymore, but now we're, down to reality, having to pay our bills and take care of the kids and pay our mortgage and everything else. So a situation is not as pleasant as it used to be. So there are other examples, not just marriage. Perhaps you've started a new job and you're so excited about your new job and all the new projects that you're going to be working on. But then after a couple of years, you say, well, I keep doing the same thing over and over and over again. I have no challenge anymore. So For a job, the bloom can be off the rose, 2 or 3 years later, when the job becomes a little bit more monotonous to you. The same thing day in, day out, and you need to perhaps find another job to get more challenging work and more challenging projects. So the bloom is off the rose. And number 10 is flowery speech. When someone has flowery speech, their speech sounds wonderful, what they're saying sounds wonderful, but there isn't much substance to it. There isn't much body or importance to what they're saying. Another word for this, it's not related to garden at all, but it's rhetoric, and I'll put that in the description down below as well. Rhetoric is flowery language. It sounds beautiful, but there's really no substance to what someone is saying. There's really no concrete solutions, especially when we're talking about politicians. They engage in a lot of rhetoric, a lot of flowery speech that sounds great, but there aren't a lot of solutions, like concrete solutions, expressed in their flowery language or in their rhetoric. So some very good idioms today. Some very good idioms today, and I encourage you to review them again. A bed of roses, a late bloomer, a shrinking violet, very similar to a wallflower, a thorn in the flesh or side. Number 5 is to nip in the bud. Number 6, everything is rosy. Number 7, a rose among thorns. Number 8, a wallflower. Number 9, the bloom is off the rose. And number 10, flowery speech. So some really great idioms about the garden. So I encourage you once again to review and use in order to remember. And before I leave you, remember to subscribe to my channel and tell all of your family and friends, again, anyone who is interested in improving their English, please you let them know about my channel and tell them to subscribe as well. So I hope you have a great day. Tomorrow I'll do part 2 of idioms from the garden. Okay? Until then, enjoy your day. Take care.